Well, we finally got some rain here in the Ozarks yesterday, and it's finally starting to feel like fall. We're so happy that summer is coming to an end. Morning, turkeys.
We're getting close to breeding time. This year I'm going to breed 2 of our females in the middle of October and then the other 2 in the middle of November, so that we'll have babies in March and then also again in April. So pretty soon these guys are going to have some fun roommates. Now that all of our normal morning chores are finished, it's time to get all of our supplies and our milking machine ready to milk Hope.
Hey, Mama, go.
to come around to me. And I'm starting to get more comfortable with her. She's such a sweet girl. Aren't you, Mama? Yes. I think maybe she's getting a little spoiled. But that's okay.
Well, it's hard to believe that it's officially the start of fall. The weather is finally starting to feel like it though, which is great. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to last. I think tomorrow summer starts again.
Yeah.
At least here in the Ozarks, they're predicting it back up into the 90s. But we're going to enjoy this first day of fall by taking a look back at some of the things that happened this past summer and talk to you guys about some of the successes that we had, some of the failures that we had, and then some of the things that maybe don't fall into either category, but we definitely learned some hard lessons from.
We also had a pretty large curveball thrown at us this summer that affected quite a bit of things here on the homestead. But you know, we hear from you guys a lot that you really enjoy when we're being real. You know, we talk about a lot of the good things that happen, but we're also wanting to share some of the things that don't always work out 100%, because not only are we learning from our mistakes, but we're hoping that you also learn from our mistakes so that you can take those things into consideration on your own homestead or in your own backyard.
Right. This is a great lifestyle to live, but it is a hard lifestyle to live at times because you put so much of your, effort into things, and then sometimes, no matter how hard you try, they just don't go right. I mean, that's just kind of how things are in life, but it seems like when you're working for yourself and you're really trying to build something, that it just seems much more personal when things go wrong. So we want to talk to you guys today about some of those things and how we're planning to overcome them in the coming years.
Well, this past spring, we utilized our greenhouse to the max. We started a lot of plant starts, not only for us to use in our planting, but also to take to the farmer's market and sell to the community so that lots of people had an opportunity to grow. And it went really well. We had beautiful plants. We had comments all spring long at the farmer's market about how our plants looked fantastic and healthy. And then we had a lot of follow-up conversations with those same people later on in the summer that they did so well for them in their gardens. So plant starts for us this year were a total success.
We have definitely learned that plant starts are one thing that sell really well at our local farmers market, and something that we will definitely keep doing year after year so that we can supply a lot of people in our community with good, healthy, organic plants.
Every year we'll learn more and more about the varieties of different plants that are really sought after in our area, so we can really target our attention and our effort to starting those plants so that people can buy what they're looking for.
We'll also be able to hone in a little more on, kind of the quantity that we need to grow each year. If there was one thing that didn't go quite right this year with plant starts, it was that we really grew too many. The previous year, we sold out of almost every plant that we had, so we thought this year we would, increase it quite a bit in hopes that we would sell out again. The truth is, the year before was probably more on pace with what we need to be doing, because we'd like to get to the end of the season and have them all gone, not still have some left that we need to, just compost or get rid of. So every year we'll get a little better. It's just like gardening and learning how many of each thing you need to grow. Same thing goes with plant starts and selling at your farmer's market. Another huge success for us this year, and something that was just amazing, was using the floating row covers in our spring garden. In the past, we've had terrible success growing any of our brassicas, so cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, collards, all of those things, because we have such a huge problem here with cabbage moths and cabbage worms. But by putting the floating row covers on this spring, it essentially eliminated that problem altogether. We had the most beautiful broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage this year. It was just amazing. Not a single bug bite on any of it.
It really was amazing. That's the best we've ever done with those types of vegetables, and we're hoping to be able to use that method coming up in the future.
And the best part is no spraying of any kind.
Right.
You know, we didn't have to use even organic pesticides to keep those things off. Just by having the covers on there, it kept everything away.
Over the course of the growing season this year, there were 3 types of plants that absolutely did terribly for us.
One of them was a big surprise.
Yeah, most of our plants did really well. We really had a good growing season. Lots of new plants that did well, lots of, you know, tried and true plants that did well, but there were 3 that did absolutely terribly. Now, the cucumbers did absolutely terribly. We had to plant them 3 times for them to do anything at all. And in the end, I think we got a total of 25 cucumbers.
If that.
In a 25-foot space
Right.
of cucumbers. It was just terrible. The other thing that didn't do very well are potatoes. I think that was really our fault. The other thing that didn't do well at all for us was English peas.
In the past, cucumbers have been one of those things that we can just plant and forget about, and we end up with so many that it's kind of a no-brainer. In past years, we got to the point where we were taking 5-gallon buckets of cucumbers down to the pigs to feed them. But this year, I just don't know what it was. I don't know if it was like too much rain and then not enough rain, or different bugs that came in, or what. But 3 different times we planted, and every time this year, they were pretty much a complete failure.
It just was not a cucumber year.
Right.
This year we decided to try something a little bit different with our potatoes. We decided to not dig trenches and then keep piling the dirt on top and on top. We decided to just plant them in the ground, just basically right underneath the surface of the ground, and then put several layers of straw down. So as the plants grew up, our intention was to continue putting more and more straw down so that the potatoes would grow inside the ground and then we wouldn't have to do much digging. That method has worked for many people.
Right.
It actually worked for the YouTube channel Art and Bree. That's where we got the idea, and it worked well for them. It didn't work well for us, and I think it's our fault. We
Right.
weren't 100% diligent about going out there and continuing to pile on the straw, and also the weeds took over.
Right. Now, part of the reason that happened this year is because we had a real big curveball thrown our way, kind of right in the middle of growing season this year. And that was that our daughter Grace was in a pretty severe car accident. After that happened, it kind of set things back quite a bit on the homestead. We may not have showed a lot of that on YouTube because we just try to, you know, kind of plow through. That's just the kind of people we are. We don't like to, you know, seem like we're complaining, but things did kind of get backed up here with some of the chores that needed to be done and things like that. And so Grace's accident really did set us back. And part of that was with the potatoes. We just didn't get out there enough to make sure we were staying on top of the weeds or adding more straw. And before long, the weeds had just completely taken over. So we're going to continue trying new methods of growing potatoes because it is something that we feel like we need to get good at, and we need to find a system that will work here in the Ozarks for us, because we eat a lot of potatoes and we need to be able to grow them ourselves. Now, there was one thing in the garden this year that in the past hasn't done well for us, and this year did amazing, and that was all of our melons. In the past, we just haven't had good success with growing watermelons or cantaloupe, but this year they both did great. Even though in the very beginning we had some problems with some bugs, we had both cucumber beetles and squash bugs, especially on the cantaloupe plants. All of them made it through. We did lose a couple plants, but for the most part, they all made it through. And we ended up with a lot more of both of those than we could possibly eat.
Through that experience, I learned that there is a way that I like cantaloupe. Generally, I don't like cantaloupe. I don't like the flavor of it, but this year we had so many of them that I decided to do some dehydrating, and I actually love dehydrated cantaloupe. So that was a total win for this year.
Right. And it gives me an excuse that we can grow them again in the future, because typically I'm the only one who really likes them. Well, Samantha likes them too, but me and Samantha are the only two that like them. But this way, now Sarah has found a way that she likes them as well, and so we'll definitely keep planting them. So 2 successes that we had this summer that were not garden related were expanding our pig area, which we about doubled the size that the pigs have back in the woods now to about 1/4 of an acre. And then also building the area for our Jersey cow. That was a big project that, I'll be honest with you guys, I had hoped to have that project done by the beginning of summer, by like May or June. But again, things this summer just got slowed down because of Grace's accident.
And the weather, gosh, it was so hot.
It was so hot. In the early spring, we had so much rain. And then in the later part of the summer, it was just so hot and dry. But we finally got it done. As you guys know, just a couple weeks ago, we got our cow. She's doing great. We'll have more about her coming up in future videos, but we're absolutely loving having her. But that was a huge success for us this summer because it's something that we've wanted to do ever since we started homesteading, even way back in the Phoenix area. So for us, it was a huge achievement.
And by doing that also, we were able to move our goats from their smaller pen area back into the woods, which is a much more natural environment for them. They love to browse on branches and bushes and weeds and those kinds of things. And since we've moved them back there, they haven't needed any hay, any supplemental hay. And when we have it in there, now that we have the cow in there and she has her hay, they barely even eat any of it. So That's been really helpful to the budget and to their health. They're so happy. They get to run free all around there. We've actually learned a pretty large lesson, and it's about our limits, our limitations. We've learned that we can't do everything. And that was a hard thing for us to swallow. We want to be able to do everything. We want to be able to get everything done, do everything well, be successful in everything that we do. And we feel like this year we may have bitten off a little bit more that we can chew. And we just realized that we can't do everything. So we need to make some changes for the future.
Right. We are so grateful for everything that we have. And when we do things, we want to be able to do them well so that we are good stewards of our land, so that we treat our animals the way they need to be treated.
And good stewards of the blessings that we've been given.
Right. So, but part of that is also taking time to realize that we need some time from time to time to sleep, rest a little bit, and just have some time to enjoy the blessings that we've been given instead of stretching ourselves so thin that, we don't ever have the time to enjoy things. One thing we always talk to you guys about is leaving the rat race. And we have found that if we don't put ourselves in check from time to time, we create our own rat race. So even though we've left corporate America and we're trying to live a much simpler life, sometimes things can just kind of get overwhelming here on the homestead. And we need to remind each other that we absolutely cannot do everything all the time.
So knowing that, our plans are to make a couple changes for next growing season. The first major change is that we will be growing for ourselves and not for the farmer's market and not for other people as far as vegetables go. Our number one goal here is to grow as much of our own food as possible. If it could be 100%, that's what we want to do.
Right.
But trying to grow more food for other people really stretches us thin.
Right. Because it's not just about the growing and the harvesting, but it's also about the time that it takes to preserve everything so that we'll have it over the winter. So we will definitely continue to sell at our local farmers market for plant starts in the spring. But once we get into harvest season, we really need to focus on the food for our own family. One thing when you are in a small town like we are and you have a small farmer's market is you really need to weigh if your time there is worth it. So for us, it means that most of the day Friday is spent harvesting, washing, packaging, and getting everything ready for the market. And then most of the day Saturday is spent sitting at the farmer's market trying to sell things. So we have come to the conclusion that it is worth our time to go to the farmer's market and sell in the spring when we can do our plant starts, but that our time is really better spent here on the homestead during harvest season.
Every year we'll get better and better knowing what the best use of our time is. We had a great summer very productive, lots of work. But if we can do things a little bit better, a little bit easier, and have a little bit more time to spend together and to relax, that would be awesome. You guys, we'd like to hear from you what lessons you learned over this summer and spring, maybe over your growing season. We'd like to hear about that.
Are there things that you're going to change on your homestead next summer? Or in your apartment or wherever you're growing? Because every year needs to be an opportunity to learn. That's how you move forward and you make better decisions for the following year.
You guys, thank you so much for joining us today and for joining us for every video. You don't know how much we appreciate you. If you're enjoying the videos, please consider subscribing to our channel. And if you like what you're seeing, make sure you share it with the people you know. Until next time, thank you so much for stopping by the homestead. Take care and God bless.
God bless.